Hey, welcome to the Driven Stone Podcast, a podcast for two friends. Raise a glass and have a conversation. I'm Nick.
And I'm Kyle. Hey, Nick.
Kyle.
What are we drinking, buddy?
All right, so I'm still in my winter mood, as it were.
Yeah.
And even though it's like 85 outside, because, Florida.
God bless you, Florida.
I mean, it was like, 60 on Christmas, and now it's 85.
Yeah. We had a couple of days.
We did.
Of winter.
It is New Year's Day.
Yeah. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you. Obviously, when this comes out, it's not going to be New Year's Day. It's a little bit after.
Yeah.
But I think we could still celebrate with a few scotches.
Let's do it.
And for
Holidays.
the Christmas holiday, you and I both got two versions of the same scotch.
Yeah. How about that?
I know.
Like-minded.
We are indeed. We didn't plan this.
We sure didn't. Just happened.
I'd like to say we did, but that's not us.
Dumb luck. All day.
That's all I got anymore. It's just straight dumb luck. So we got two versions of the Ardbeg line here.
I love Ardbeg.
See, and I can't remember having had regular Ardbeg. I mean, have you had a bottle of it? You had a bottle of it, didn't you?
Yeah.
So maybe I had some of it to try it at some point.
I would think so.
Maybe. But we've got the Ardbeg Wee Beastie, and we've got the Ardbeg Isla Single Malt 10-year.
Right, which is kind of
their flagship, if you will. Like, that is Ardbeg. So
Ardbeg.
If someone says, I'm drinking Ardbeg, that's probably what they're
having.
So we're going to do both of these in this episode at some point. Which one do you want to start with?
I would say let's start with the 10-year.
Okay. I like it.
As that's the flagship, and then this is kind of the variant.
Yeah.
We'll go to the variant second.
And we'll talk about the Wee Beastie and what makes it a variant of the flagship Ardbeg Single Malt 10-year.
Totes.
Cool.
So yeah, I mean, this is my second bottle of Ardbeg. My whole thing was like I was running low on scotch. I went to the liquor store to purchase a scotch. I was about to pull the trigger on a Boonhaven.
Yeah.
And I was like, I want some peat.
Yeah.
And so Ardbeg was right there. And Ardbeg comes in a good $20 under some of the other guys of like your Lafroigs, your Lagavulins especially. That's like $40 less.
Yeah.
So, and I really enjoy Ardbeg, so that was an easy trigger pull.
And, I remember us talking about scotches, especially when the trade agreements kind of came into fruition about how expensive those are going to start to become. And I really haven't seen...
They did for a couple of months.
They did.
But they've seemed to kind of come back down.
Level out a little bit. And in fact, I've seen over the last 2 months, something like a Lagavulin, which is going to be, 6 months ago, you couldn't find a Lagavulin for less than $109. That's kind of around here. That's what it was. I saw it as high as $130 in places as like a standard.
Right.
Now, I've seen bottles for 80, 89, not 80, maybe 89, 90.
I feel like I've seen around 90.
Yeah. Which, that's a fair price reduction.
Yeah, no joke.
And I would say Ardbeg is pretty much, Ardbeg and Highland Park have really kind of stayed the same.
Right.
And maybe it's just how they're distributed. Lafroig's jumped up slightly. But yeah, for the most part, it wasn't as big of a hike as I expected it to be. And it's leveled off or even come down.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's break into it.
Let's do it. Oh, yeah. Thank you, sir.
You can already smell it in the air.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I like about a scotch. It's like,
I think you get it with bourbon, but a peaty scotch.
There's nothing that smells like that.
It just whatever the essence is that gets in the air, man, it is potent.
Yeah, it pops everything around it.
Now, obviously, like right off the bat, you got to talk about the color.
Light blonde, straw.
watery piss. It's light.
It's light.
Like it probably, from my memory, probably the lightest thing we've ever done.
What's super interesting is if you were to put this up against the 10-year bourbon, there's some 10-year bourbons on the shelf over here. Like, look how dark those bourbons are versus this.
Yeah.
So that tells me like what that char of that barrel really does for the color of the whiskey.
For sure. I would assume they've got to char the barrel for scotch. Like, can you?
I don't know.
I feel like that's just part of the sealing process.
Yeah, I'm sure there's some version of a char, but
it just must be just such a light
Yeah, just
char because
giving
you're
it
just not
enough.
giving it any color.
No,
And it's
'cause-
been in there for 10 years.
Yeah, this
And
is
it got nothing out of it.
and you know what I appreciate about this is it would be very easy for them to make this a darker whiskey, but if this is a 10-year whiskey, this is what whiskey looks like after 10 years,
Right, and
without that like super dark char.
And which I think it is non-chill filtered,
I think so.
but still, I mean, just incredibly light. I mean, it literally looks like maybe like a Chardonnay.
You're 100% right.
Or a Pinot Gris.
Yeah, absolutely.
Light.
It is super light. I mean,
Any cool bottle words?
our distillery lies at the most southerly part of Islay, and our malt is revered around the world as the peatiest, smokiest, most complex whiskey of them all. We'll be the judge of that.
Yeah.
Yet it does not flaunt the peat. Rather, the peat gives way to the malt, the natural sweetness of which subtly intrudes, producing perfect balance. Distilled and bottled in Scotland.
Speak bottle to me.
Yeah, that's my favorite language.
Mhm.
We
Knows it.
We gotta knows it.
You knows it.
It does knows it. Salt air, like briny, and that's just classic peated Scotch.
Like that doesn't jump out to me. It's there.
Yeah.
What jumps out to me is smoked honey.
Ooh, I was gonna say there's a sweet note,
Like
for sure.
Obviously the peat jumps out, but like just like a light honey.
Interesting, smoked honey. Like they said that this is the most complex and peaty Scotch. When I think of like a peaty Scotch, I go back to like the 16-year Lagavulin,
Okay.
which is like campfire.
Right.
This is not quite that. It's not campfire peat, not campfire smoke.
Right. Well, and it's interesting, like as forward as peat is
Yeah.
in nosing and in tasting, I feel like it's also something that for whatever reason, like you acclimate to it quickly.
Very quickly.
Like
Absolutely.
I'm already now to the point of nosing this.
You can get past
That's not where what I notice anymore.
Yeah, you get and I've had this experience with everything that I've ever had that's peated, even Connemara, which is, a really even more sweet peat, is that you get punched in the face with the peat and then caressed right after.
Right.
Like it's not, it doesn't push forward in every single iteration or every single time you smell it. It dissipates really quickly.
Yeah. Yeah, you get used to it really quick.
It's like, boom, here it is, and then gone.
Right. I'm also getting now a really strong, it's vanilla-esque, but it's like a snow cream. You ever make snow cream?
Mm-mm.
You ever have snow cream? It's like, you go out and you get the fresh snow and you make some ice cream out of it with some vanilla and some
We live
cream.
in Florida, buddy.
Well, I know you've been to
True.
further north places in your life.
Gainesville.
I made it to Daytona once. Burr, it was cold.
It's a full degree colder over there.
Whew, I don't know how they do it. But
know-
yeah, I'm getting this like kind of vanilla-y, creamy kind of note.
I've lately, out of the scotches that I've been drinking lately, I've gotten a lot of pipe tobacco. And I'm getting some of that here, like slight leather, like undertones of leather and pipe tobacco.
Nice.
I'm going in.
Hey, Pete. Pete and repeat.
Wow. Woo, there's the punch, man.
Yeah.
Ooh, what is the proof on this?
I know, right?
Wow.
Ardbeg doesn't leave it behind.
No.
They include the proof.
Like, that's surprising.
If I'm not mistaken, it's 92.
46.
Yeah.
92. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Like, that's enjoyable.
No joke.
I kind of took a bigger swig than normal because I thought I was gonna be disappointed by the
Thought
proof.
you were hitting that 80.
Yes. And then it hit
Come
my
on
stomach.
in. Yeah.
Whoa, we gotta slow down, buddy. Slow
Get
down.
you a nice Edinburgh hug.
Isla hug.
Isla hug.
Everyone in Scotland's like, you
You fuck.
you don't know shit. You're right.
But then that second sip, it's all sweet and vanilla and
It really is, and I'm still getting salted caramel. Like there's still that brine that's just peeking in there, poking through.
I like the brine. To me, it's just not. I don't get caramel. It's more vanilla, like a salted vanilla
Okay, I mean,
ish.
yeah, I can see that. Like toffee kind of adjacent kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of sidestepping it.
What?
Little juke,
Yeah.
little head bob and weave.
Toffee juke.
Yeah, little toffee juke.
Okay. There's also this really nice peppery note that kind of washes over the back end.
Yeah,
And I don't know if it's part of the proof or if it's part of just, whatever the malt is here.
I'm gonna say it's a little bit of that proof.
Yeah.
that proof spiciness.
Yeah.
totally makes it like this peppery.
And it super complements the sweet of the Scotch here.
Yeah.
Like once the peat kind of subsides a little bit, then you get the sweet, and then on the back end you get that peppery note that really kind of complements all of that. This is well balanced. I think
It's all kind of like tied together with this like kind of herbally, kind of almost medicinal, kind of bow.
Yeah,
that just kind of holds it all together.
So because I've been doing more Scotches lately, and a lot of my research has said like Band-Aid. Do you get Band-Aid?
I don't.
I don't either. And in fact, other than the Lefroy, I don't get Band-Aid in anything.
Well, and it's been a long time since I skinned my knee and really nosed a Band-Aid.
You just don't, you're not
to
the
be
kind
honest,
of person opening Band-Aids. And
I haven't, not in a while, and I've got kids too. Like, I mean, I just don't.
Well, you just spray them off with a hose and you're good to go.
Yeah, we just rub dirt on it. Rub some sand on it here in Florida.
Spit and dirt and you're good.
So
builds character.
I guess I'd be more and less interested. Like, I don't know. I don't really want to go nose a Band-Aid right now, but I think I know what they're talking about, and I just don't attribute it to Band-Aid.
See, and I know what they're talking about too, and I understand it, but this was in relation to all peaty Scotches. Like it was like a generalization of all peaty Scotches smell and taste like Band-Aids. And
I haven't tasted too many Band-Aids.
I mean, again, Band-Aid cookies not your forte.
What's that secret ingredient? It's
Band-Aid.
It's Band-Aid.
Some people call it love. We call it Band-Aid.
Nice.
I do get that with the Lefroy a little bit.
Yeah.
But not here. Not at all.
Right. Yeah, I think maybe some other Scotches that I've had, it has more of that, I'm going to say more medicinal, kind of herby, more like maybe aloe-y kind of an aroma.
Yeah.
But I just don't attribute it to that.
There's
for
like
whatever reason.
It's
more botanical.
Almost like kind of gin adjacent. Like gins are really known for having that botanical quality.
Sure.
And sometimes, you've got these vodka makers that are putting, rose stuff and grapefruit and other shit in their vodka, and it's kind of like that. But I agree. There's like a
been binging some baking shows, the British Bake Off, quite a bit.
Been done binging the baking show.
Been binging the baking Bake Off, British Bake Off show.
Yeah.
And they cook a lot with gin.
Yeah, because it has a lot of those botanical notes. Yeah. And I definitely agree with you. There's some of that in here as well. It's
about gone. That's what it is.
We just started this episode. It is already gone. We got another one to go through here.
Thank God.
I also like the finish. I would say it's more on the watery end, but not watery that it just leaves you hanging.
Right.
But it's also not so thick that like all of that just really super clings.
And and it's something I don't really think we've talked a whole lot about before, but like the fact that it is that first sip was kind of almost aggressive and punchy.
Yep.
But like you acclimate to it, and so through your course of the drink, it changes and smooths out and becomes more elegant and kind of
I like that.
Yeah.
Smooth out and elegant.
It is.
It's like putting on a fine cocktail
lovely.
dress.
Yeah, it's like it's like easing you into the evening. Let me slip into something a little more comfortable.
or easing you out of the evening and into sleep.
Yeah.
Because like I could totally do that as an after dinner drink.
For sure.
Yeah, for sure. So before we get into our conversation this week, Kyle, we have a few gifts.
What?
I know. This episode obviously is coming out after Christmas.
Yeah, 'tis the season.
Yeah. So we've had a few gifts, and I want to highlight those before we move into our conversation. And the first one is a gift from Tanya.
Thanks, Tanya. Tanya, who gave us the suggestions of our cocktails.
Absolutely.
Our Christmas cocktails.
Absolutely. And she hand painted on these little mini canvases.
Look at that.
Yeah, she hand painted a cheers buddy with 2 glasses clinking and the word cheers.
So good.
It is really good.
That is amazing.
It is. It's a magnet, it sticks to the fridge. It's really nice.
That is super cool, Tanya. That's amazing. Thank you so much.
And we also had a listener donate 5 pints to us, Kyle.
That is awesome.
It is awesome.
Wow.
Brandon Boltman donated through our Buy Me a Coffee page. Obviously, it's us, so we call it the Buy Me a Pints. He donated 5 pints to Dreppenstone.
Man.
I know.
That's incredible.
Isn't he amazing?
All-star. VIP right there. He is getting the VIP access.
He's going to the top of the list.
Yeah, he just crossed the velvet rope.
Onto the red carpet. He's running down after us.
That's awesome.
Yeah, thanks, Brandon. And we'll have to share a brink. We'll have to
Brandon.
a brink with Brandon. We'll have to share a drink with Brandon once some of this COVID stuff settles down a little bit and get Brandon over here. I know Brandon also enjoys a fine cigar as well.
Hey.
So I see a Dreppen Stone.
A new pairing, if you will.
Absolutely. And, if you also want to be like Brandon, buymeacoffee.com/Dreppen
Or a bottle of Ardbeg.
Ardbeg?
Bottle of Ardbeg.
Burger Burger King. The Swedish chef over here. Or a bottle of anything. So, Brandon, want to let you know your pints are going to be used to help support the podcast. Help buy us some new bottles, and we'll let you know what those bottles are.
Keep that content coming.
Absolutely. All right, so what are we talking about this week, Kyle?
I don't know if you've been on the internet recently, but this
Try not to.
this thing this thing came out, and it's a pretty great thing that I feel like is pretty universally appreciated.
Yep.
That's The Mandalorian.
Ooh.
We just wrapped up season 2.
We did.
A couple of weeks ago.
Absolutely.
And the Star Wars geeks that we are, we would be amiss if we did not discuss.
100%.
Because some pretty
so.
epic shit went down.
You're not wrong. Obviously, before we get into this, though, we have to warn everybody, there will 100% be spoilers.
Yeah.
This has been out for a while now, so I don't feel bad about it at all.
Yeah. No, I don't either. I mean, that's what we do.
For sure.
We got to talk about these things as they happen, or it's no longer fun to talk about it.
I mean, we talked about the first
do talk
season
about
6 months after.
Well, and we do talk about things that, we're pretty nostalgic fellas.
That's also true.
So,
But the point being, spoilers.
spoilers.
It's going to happen.
Right.
So let's kind of just, what I think we should do is talk about like the season as a whole.
Yep.
And then narrow things down to the last maybe couple of episodes where like shit got real.
Cool. Let me start with this. Did you like season 1 better or season 2 better?
That I literally just going to ask you that question.
Was it a improvement?
Okay. If you were to ask me that question after the first 5 episodes of the season, I would say no, it wasn't an improvement.
Interesting.
Because I really liked that first season.
That first season was pretty tight.
The first season, it gave you all the beats you wanted. It was such a refreshing take on Star Wars. And it was that, and we said it in that episode, it was a Western.
Yeah.
And it was like leaning hard into that. This season let me down the first couple of episodes. I'm not saying they weren't good in and of themselves.
Right.
But in comparison to season 1, I feel like it began on the weaker side.
Interesting.
Yeah. What about you?
What was the first episode?
First episode of the season, I liked.
Yeah.
That it felt like a continuation of the first season. Like literally, like we just picked up right where we left off. And maybe it was at the second and third episode of this season where I was like, filler. I mean, not that the story wasn't forwarded in some way, not that you didn't learn things, but it didn't feel as strong as the first season to me.
Sure. For me, the second season, I'm gonna say it holds par with the first season. I don't think it was necessarily better or worse. For me, it held par, and that's because of everything that we learned.
Sure.
This season, you learn, and it connects overall to the Star Wars structure than the first season did.
Right.
And that's not necessarily like better or worse. They were able to do that because of what season 1 was.
Right.
Like season 1 is so good and tight, and they nailed it. And because of the work, because there's not a whole lot of connection in that first season. It's more of a, insular story.
100% so. It's a story in the Star Wars universe. It's
It's not connecting yet until like the very last episode.
Sure.
Is it starting to make connections to the overall Star Wars universe.
Right.
Where this season, it's like every episode is a connector.
And maybe that's what also kind of took me out of it a little bit, because at the beginning of the season, and honestly up through like episode 15 of the season, we really didn't know anything that we know
Or
now.
episode 5 of the season.
15 of the story.
Overall,
Right.
chapters.
Yeah. So we really didn't know where they were going. Like we had inklings, we had rumors, but we really didn't know.
Right.
But now you can clearly see, and we're going to eventually get there in terms of the story universe they're opening up. But I think that actually took me out of it a little bit, because they're starting to introduce these characters that obviously play into the story of The Mandalorian, but you can tell are being introduced because they're going to play some larger role outside of this storyline too.
Sure.
And that maybe took me out a little bit. Now, I think I agree with you that this is on par with the first season.
Yeah.
The first half, not so much for me, but when you look at it in totality, now that we have the whole season, 100% so. And I think you could sum up this entire season with 2 words, and that's character development.
Sure.
And we've said this before with every Star Wars movie, both on the podcast and just talking about it, you and I, that's something that the
sequel trilogy. You have the original,
right?
You have the prequels, and you have what is the sequel trilogy, Disney's trilogy.
That's what it's lacking.
Yeah,
this gives it to you.
Right.
It's giving you exactly what you want in terms of that character development.
You know, I mean, and I think The Mandalorian is a great example of like what we've talked about before, which is where I feel like it's where entertainment is kind of shifting.
100%. Yeah.
Is this we're looking for more of a serial, not necessarily bingeable, because we don't get to binge The Mandalorian. You can, but you're pretty much watching it 1 episode a week. But it is more of this kind of serial aspect of like, we want more detail, we need more stuff. Like if you tried to make a movie about The Mandalorian season 1, there's so much in that first season that you wouldn't get in a movie.
Exactly.
If you try to make this season 2 a movie, there's so much you wouldn't get, but we want it. Yeah. You know, we crave all that little bit of like, oh my God, that's Ahsoka, and how she connects to the Clone Wars and all these other things and what that means. Like we want that.
Yeah. Well, this does, in terms of the serialized version, this does what no movie can do, and that's provide distance between episodes. You're right. You can 100% binge it. I did that with the first season. And I don't think it detracts, but giving it to us week by week allows enough space between each episode that like there's no...
You're able to contemplate what you think's going to happen,
right,
and then they can subvert that.
Sure. Exactly.
Because they do. They kind of like, you know, they kind of show their signals of like, this is where we're going.
Right.
But then that episode comes and they're like, nope, hard right.
Well, I just watched Last Jedi, and so much of Last Jedi is also those, you know, those the wipes in terms of transitions,
classic
and
Star
the
Wars,
classic Star Wars kind of thing. Obviously, they're playing to that. And when you have a serialized version, you don't have to do that because the space in between does that for you.
Right.
And not saying that they don't have those small shots
richness
there. Exactly. So, you know, where you would have the Falcon in hyperspace and then a wipe to somewhere else, you don't have to do that because that's happened.
Time.
Exactly. That's happened in that intermediary period.
Right.
So, you know, when you're listening or when you're watching it all in one go, like, you know, there might be that might be mitigated a little bit or shrunk a little bit, but it doesn't feel like the fast pace that a movie has to keep in order to give you enough information in this section of the story, in this section of the story, and like what's going on here and what's going on there.
Right.
And I think that's where the sequel trilogy fails, is they're trying to do so much and give you so much that you're kind of lost in a lot of what's going on, and then you don't get to build those character development aspects. So then when you figure out Rey's a Palpatine and then she says I'm a Skywalker at the end, you're like, what? Wait, you told me that she was at the beginning of this movie that she's a Palpatine, and now she's choosing
the movie before you told me she was a nobody.
Exactly. So,
and the movie before that, you wanted me to think, oh my God,
she's somebody
huge.
Right. So what you're jerking the audience around, and you could very easily do that here in The Mandalorian, and it wouldn't feel as jarring because you have that space. You have the ability.
You had more time to breathe with it, kind of exist with it,
exactly,
instead of being jerked one way or the other.
Exactly, 100% so. So in terms of this, you have basically the same directors for the most part coming back. You got a few new directors. Carl Weathers directs an episode.
Loved that episode.
Yeah. You also have Peyton Reed directs an episode.
Yeah. Ant-Man.
Dave Filoni comes back. And then you have Robert Rodriguez, who did Spy Kids, and then the series with Danny.
That's why that happened.
Danny Trejo. Machete and Machete Returns. And
Right.
I'm making that up. I never saw that. Rick Fumiyawa, who directs my favorite episode, and then Peyton Reed also then directs the final episode as well. So Deborah Chow, I think her name is, or Deborah Cho. I can't remember off the top of my head. She's been tapped to do something else. She was a director from last season.
Oh, okay.
She's been tapped to do something else in the Star Wars universe kind of thing. So she wasn't in this season.
Right.
And I feel like she might have been the only one that didn't come back.
Yeah.
I think.
What's her name?
Bryce Dallas Howard.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
She returned.
Yep, she came back for one. And that was the frog lady one, which I felt was kind of a letdown.
Yes.
But
she introduced Bo-Katan.
But you get Bo-Katan.
And there was a really interesting scene in that episode that she was referencing Apollo 13.
Yeah.
Which was pretty neat.
Her dad's movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you get the characters back. You get a lot of the characters from the first season that you expect to come back. So you've got Grief Karga come back as the magistrate, I think he is now, of the town on Navarro.
Right.
You have Cara Dune come back, who's now the
not sheriff. She's like a New Republic.
the marshal.
Marshal.
Yeah. The New Republic's calling them the marshals.
Right.
Which is going to be interesting to see how they tie those into other things later, if they decide to do that. You have the episode that is introducing Ahsoka Tano as well.
Yep.
Which
is like the most Western episode I think that they've given us. They've given us like moments of Western iconography.
Yeah.
But like that whole episode is like, especially like the last like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Is just straight up Western showdowns.
Well, I can tell
fights.
you 100% so, but I would say it actually goes even further back than that, or maybe around the same time period, but it's a clear reference in some cases almost beat for beat to Akira Kurosawa's some of his films.
Right.
I mean, it's very like Seven Samurai, like,
which is where a lot of those spaghetti westerns got their influence.
100% so. And that's also where a lot of the kind of versions of filmmaking that Lucas and Spielberg and those guys, where they got a lot of that stuff was from filmmakers like Kurosawa.
Right.
So it's really interesting to see. I 100% agree with you. Like, that is your Western episode.
Now, going into that episode, like what was your knowledge of Ahsoka?
So I knew I haven't watched is it
Clone Wars?
It's Clone Wars. I was going to say Rebels. I haven't watched Clone Wars. I haven't watched very far into Clone Wars.
She's in Rebels too.
But I know enough that she is a protege, or she was
Anakin's apprentice.
Thank you, Anakin's apprentice.
His Padawan.
Correct. And there was was there a split at some point where like that's where he started going down dark side, and she.
No, so Ahsoka's her ending in Clone Wars, which Disney then went back and finished the Clone Wars properly,
season,
which was fantastic. The last 4 episodes of Clone Wars,
really,
boom,
wow,
like so good.
I still need to go back and watch it. I mean,
Disney Plus, a cool thing that they've done is if you go and you search through the Star Wars section, they've got like the 20 episodes of Clone Wars that you need to see.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I'll probably do that then.
And it's pretty slick. Like, I mean, there's a lot of filler. Like, they were like, I want to say like 30, 40 episodes a season.
Yeah,
there was a lot of filler.
Because that's when it was on Cartoon Network.
Yeah, before pre-Disney.
Right.
So that's a unique thing. But so Ahsoka's thing, she ends up leaving the Jedi Order because there was a bomb at the Jedi Temple, and they accused her of doing it. She was blackmailed.
Gotcha.
And everybody believed it.
So this is prior to Order 66?
Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
Anakin never doubted her. Believed her the whole time. And even when the Jedi Council kind of had said she was guilty,
right,
Anakin didn't believe it. Anakin went out and like found the actual suspect, and he went back to her and said, "Look, you've been absolved of all of this. They've taken away. Come back." And she was like, "I can't do it.
Right.
Like, I've been jaded. I'm out. I don't believe in the Order anymore. I'm done. I'm going off on my
that
own."
timeline is supposed to be between Clone Wars and Revenge of the Sith. That's what that's supposed to be, correct?
Correct. Yeah, that's also the last season that they just did of Clone Wars. When Disney purchased Star Wars, they ended that show immediately.
Right.
So that last season, the season 6 was very unsatisfying to the fans. So Disney then went back and redid it once they owned it.
Yeah.
And that last season now takes you up to Order 66 and a little bit beyond.
Oh, okay. And for those of you who are like, what is Order 66? That's where essentially Anakin goes in and kills all the children.
Yeah.
Of the Jedi
Clone
Temple.
Wars turn on the Jedi and wipe out everybody.
Yeah.
Very few survive, but as time goes on,
you learn
more and more people survive.
Right.
Order
Well,
66.
clearly, also through this season, we learn more and more people survive things that we didn't think were possible.
Yeah.
Such as Boba Fett.
Boba Fett.
Who you actually see in the first episode of the season.
1. Yep. In season 1, you see him.
You do?
Everybody thought it was him, but there was never ever any confirmation of who that was.
Really?
So the sniper lady, I forget her name.
Yeah, Fennec.
Yep. She gets taken out in that one episode. So in her
Right,
episode
okay.
in season 1, at the end of that episode, somebody walks up to her body.
Right.
And there's like
in the desert.
There's
that's
like
right.
there's
yeah.
spur clink clink.
Right.
So everybody thought that was Boba Fett, but there was never any. They never went back to it to officially say that yes, that's who it was.
Right.
Then now you realize that that's who it was.
So I mean, the whole season opens back on Tatooine with the Krayt Dragon, and you kind of
think Boba Fett ends up being the sheriff
who is
of the town.
Timothy Oliphant, which is great. I like that character.
Sure.
That's a cool character.
Yeah.
But then, they kind of do a little bit of suspension of disbelief, and it's never really explained how he survived the Sarlacc pit.
I bet we get that in the Book of Boba.
It's possible. I saw some videos.
He's gonna be
about,
back on Tatooine.
Sure.
There's gonna be a
this is
a
what
reference
I did.
to it, like how I got out.
Basically, I saw some speculations on YouTube of like it was the Beskar. Like that's essentially what saved him.
Well, and it also involved the Krayt Dragon.
Correct.
Like they say that in the episode of like Krayt Dragon can eat a Sarlacc or whatever.
Sarlacc. Right. So maybe we'll know it. If not, I'm okay with it. I don't necessarily need to know.
Don't necessarily need all those T's crossed.
But you get Boba Fett, who's played by Tamura Morrison.
Correct.
Yeah, he's played by Tamura Morrison,
who was all the clones, who was Jango Fett,
right? Who
is now Boba Fett, and they've gone back and added in his voice for all of Boba Fett's lines in the original trilogy. Yeah,
I didn't know they did that.
Yeah,
I saw another video on YouTube where like original Boba and now new Boba, but I didn't make that connection that they had went back and
if you go back and you watch like on Disney Plus, if you watch the old trilogy with McClunky, they've subbed his voice in for all of the lines for Boba Fett now.
Yeah.
Empire and Jedi.
Can we talk about the final 2 episodes of the season?
I guess.
Okay. My favorite episode is the 7th episode of the season, the 15th in the 15th chapter. They're calling it like just as if it all is one kind of thing.
Right.
And that's the one where Miggs Mayfeld, played by Bill Burr, is called upon to help the Mandalorian basically get a key.
It's like a. They need basically information to know where
Moff Gideon is. Right. So they go to a planet. Can't remember the name of it, but they go to a planet, and there's this kind of
some explosive material.
Yeah, some explosive material. I think it's the fuel source maybe for stuff. I can't remember, but but it involves like these local pirates who are clearly mad at what is still the Empire, right? But I would say that is my favorite episode for a couple of reasons.
Okay,
what you learn about the Mandalorian in conjunction with Miggs Mayfeld, because what I find super interesting is that the Miggs Mayfeld character brings out so much about the Mandalorian that we didn't know just in their interaction.
Right.
The first being that the Mandalorian steps out of his armor, which we've never seen up until that point.
Right.
I mean, we've seen him take off the helmet to be saved by IG-11.
Yep.
88?
11.
Okay.
88 is from Empire.
Okay.
He was the OG.
Oh, right. We see him take off his Mandalorian armor and put on Stormtrooper armor.
Right.
What I love about that, and I'm thinking from a literary standpoint, is literally he's willing to sacrifice himself in order to save something else.
Right.
And that's character development in a nutshell.
Right.
And then you have this really super interesting conversation between Mandalorian.
But before you do that, what I really like too is like the details of like how they're thinking so well about these characters is like once he puts on that Stormtrooper armor, and then he has to go and fight these pirates, if you will.
Yeah, the locals.
And he more or less forgets that he's not wearing Beskar, so he goes to like block, and the stormtrooper just shatters.
Yeah, and he's like,
so good.
Well, and that too, like when he gets back in the vehicle and he's like, ugh.
Yeah.
He does like the old man,
sucks.
the old man grunt where he's like, oh, it all hurts.
Yeah.
It's so good. But before that little exchange, not a little exchange, it's kind of big, but before that exchange, they're having this kind of like philosophical conversation about him taking the helmet off. Like, why won't you do it?
Yeah.
What doesn't matter? What is it going to hurt? Which is a payoff later. It's kind of Chekhov's gun for when they're in the base, and he's faced with a lieutenant or a general, I forget what he is, and he asks him to take off his helmet,
Right,
so that it can scan him for
to give him the information.
Right, to give him the information, and he takes off his helmet.
Yeah,
and spends quite a long time without his helmet on. Miggs Mayfeld sees him. Everybody sees him, which is 100% against the Mandalorian code.
right, and it was an amazing moment, and you almost kind of saw it. It was kind of like foreshadowed that that he might have to do that, and I appreciated it in the moment for that episode. Like, it was pretty impactful.
Yeah,
but like having seen the last episode, 100%. I kind of wish they'd waited.
See, this is what we talked about when we talked about the first season. Is like, hated that you saw him. Like, you didn't have to show me that at all, and it would have made such a bigger impact if you let me see him this time, or like, that would have made such a deeper
where
impact.
He's doing it for someone else, not for himself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That he's willing to sacrifice literally his identity, his entire identity, to save something else,
right, outside
of himself. Something that honestly he shouldn't care about at all.
Right.
It's not his fight. This thing should have just been a bounty for him. That's it.
Right.
So that's where, from a literary standpoint, character development just skyrockets. And that, to me, is almost the turning point of, you can start to see how they're trying to do the same things that they were doing in the MCU and applying it to Star Wars.
Right.
And that is what DC misses, and that's character development. Plot is almost secondary to care about the characters, and then we can tell you the story.
Right.
And that's what's so beautiful here.
Yeah. Talking about like how nerdy you can get with Star Wars.
Yeah.
After he's taken off the helmet and they're having the conversation with I don't think he's a Moff.
I don't think so either.
But he's like a step below it, like Admiral or whatever. They're having that conversation with him, and you're finding like how douchey of a guy he is.
Yeah.
Bill Burr's character references it's like this Empire. It's like an Order 66, but it's Operation Cinders. But he references Operation Cinders in that episode
because he was a part of it.
Right. And he lost a lot of friends when they blew up that planet,
right.
and some of the other things that they did as part of that.
Because they blew up the planet
operation
with Empire soldiers on it.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, and families and people who were loyal to the Empire.
Right. And this admiral was basically like, well, that happens.
And it just shows you like how much they're thinking about all this shit, that they would even tie it into a reference of a video game.
Well, it's clear that they're also like referencing things that are book reference and comic book reference only.
Right.
That like have nothing to do with the
overall
main line of films, but
they're just trying to cast that spider web.
Absolutely.
And show you that, this all really
this is
does.
somehow connected. Sure. Which then brings us to the final episode of the season.
Well, I was going to say really quickly,
sure.
Like I agree. Like that was a great episode. My favorite episode was, I think it was just the episode before that.
Okay.
Which is the episode where they're taking Grogu to the Jedi planet, to the temple.
Right. Where you actually see
Where
Boba.
you see fucking Slave One.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
Come down. Like that episode for me, like, I mean, like I geeked out on that one just as hard as I did on the last episode.
Yeah.
And like there was so much cool lore stuff too that it added in, like, you know, they get Grogu to this temple and it's got the ball and like he just kind of sits him on it and he doesn't know if anything's really going to happen or how this really works or anything like that. And he turns around when the Slave One comes down and he turns back to talk to Grogu, and Grogu's in this trance.
Yeah, like
with
this
Buddha
fucking, like, blue
orb shooting up this like crazy Jedi magic shit all around him, and he can't even like penetrate the thing.
touches it.
That
and,
was
gets
cool.
Shocked.
Yeah, like throws him back. Like that was super cool and like so insightful, and like it. And then I mean, the whole like rest of the episode of the Mandalorian and Boba like kicking ass on these stormtroopers.
Yeah,
was like totally just epic. But it's that great thing of like what the serialness of these episodes give you, which is who is Grogu talking to?
Right.
You didn't know, and you got all this conjecture for I think what ended up being 2 weeks of like who did he contact?
Yeah.
Who was he talking to?
Yeah.
Was he talking to a Jedi? Was he possibly talking to somebody that was a Sith? You had all these like you just don't know.
Yeah.
And that's so much fun, especially when it's paid off
100%
in that last episode.
And I agree. That's where the serialized nature really comes through. Is that if this were a film, you'd have that occur a half hour, maybe 45 minutes before the payoff, and it's not as big of a payoff.
Well, to me, it's like that's what we got from The Force Awakens, which was all this conjecture of all these things we were trying to figure out for a year.
Sure.
We were trying to figure out who is Snoke,
Right.
who is Rey,
Right.
who, all these things. And then when we got to The Last Jedi and it was just like chop, none of it means anything.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, well,
That's
really disappointing.
yeah. That's where the payoff doesn't land.
Right.
Yeah. So let's talk about the final episode.
All right.
In conjunction with like who does Grogu contact or who does Baby Yoda contact, you start to get that payoff. You get a fight between Mandalorian.
Yeah.
What is his name's Din Djarin, I think his name is.
Din Djarin.
Yeah,
Din Djarin.
Din Djarin.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you get this fight between the Mandalorian and Moff Gideon.
Yeah.
Which I could see like being very. It wasn't a big payoff, but it ends up being so.
Before that, it was Mandalorian against the Dark
Troopers, which was cool.
Which was like him one-on-one.
Yeah.
And that you see how powerful these things are.
Yeah, and like they're just kicking his ass.
Yeah.
And like
luckily he gets out of it. He basically kind of almost like escapes. Like he finally handles that one.
He airlocks it. That's what he does.
But
he does like the aliens like
more than one gotten in there, he was toast.
Yeah. But ultimately, like when he did that too, when he like pushes the airlock button, I'm like, those things, come on, they're robots. They're not,
that
in space. They're gonna
you
come
just
back.
bought time, bro.
That's exactly what you did. Yeah. So like at first I was like, cool, they're gone, and I'm like, wait, hold on.
Nah,
they're not just gonna Deus Ex Machina that thing because the Empire spent some money on
for sure.
And honestly, Disney spent some money on some really badass CGI
to get rid of them with a button push.
Yeah, no, they're going to bring that back. So you get the Darksaber. Really, this is the first time that we like see it and see it in action. We saw it at the end of season 1,
right?
But like
didn't really use it.
Right. This is where like
it was a can opener.
You get you get Darksaber against Beskar's spear, and like it's pretty cool.
And so to your point, what's interesting to me is like again, if you see how all this stuff's connected and you've watched all the media and stuff, like so the Darksaber at the end of Rebels
right.
is won by a character in that episode who was a Mandalorian.
Right.
Who everybody speculated she was going to show up. I can't remember her name. I'm not going to look it up. They speculated that she was going to show up in The Mandalorian.
Right.
She never did. Sabine Wren. Didn't have to look it up. It just came to me.
Nerd.
At the end of that series, though, Sabine gives Bo-Katan the Darksaber.
So, and that's what I find.
And she
so
didn't win
interesting.
it. She just gave it to her. She accepted it. She holds it up all victorious and everything.
Right.
So it's going to be interesting to see how they explain it now, of why it's important now that she win it.
I think Moff Gideon kind of explains it. And he basically says, and I'm not going to quote the line, but he basically says, like, it has nothing to do with the sword. It has everything to do with the mythos that surrounds the sword. Ultimately, it's just a sword.
Right.
So it's like playing into that, like how deeply the mythos plays into who these characters are. And I think that's what's so cool to me.
And I think, there'll be some sort of an explanation of how maybe that interaction didn't really give her authority over it. And somehow, and that's how Moff Gideon got it from her in the first place.
But I mean, we spent an entire episode this season of her like, I need the sword.
Right.
I need Moff Gideon. So you have, a bunch of things happen. They're all on the bridge of,
it's not a
It's not a Star Cruiser.
It's not a Star Cruiser. It's like a Star. It's not a Star Destroyer.
Right.
It might be a cruiser.
It might be a cruiser. Yeah. But so they're on the bridge, and then through the windows of the bridge, they see this X-wing fly in.
Yeah.
So when you saw that, what were you thinking?
So, did you 100% honest?
Did you read anything first before?
No.
Okay.
No, I was going into it blind, but to be 100% honest, like I was always under the belief that it's got to be Luke. That's who Grogu contacted.
Okay.
Just from what we know of who's out there at this point in the Star Wars mythos, Luke is the only one that's out there really kicking around.
Luke is technically the only Jedi. I mean, that's
from what we knew,
we know.
From way back in time. I mean, now obviously we know that like Ahsoka's out there.
Sure.
Another game that they haven't tied in yet. There's a couple of Jedi there that survived. Like there's we know that there's others out there. You know, there's speculation. Maybe it's Mace Windu.
Sure.
We never saw his body. Like, it's all this kind of stuff. Maybe he reached out and spoke to a ghost.
Right. Obi-Wan,
Yoda, whoever. I thought it was like, because nobody else that I saw was saying it was Luke.
Right.
And I think that's more or less just because like they kind of thought like they're not going to bring Luke Skywalker.
Right.
That's where nobody was going. But like I was totally just like, it's got to be Luke. Like, we know Luke is going to set up a school. Who else is he going to contact? And we know Grogu was at the temple at Order 66, so it's not like he's an unknown entity.
Right.
It just to me it made the most sense to be Luke.
See, I thought,
although I was in the sense of like they won't do Luke.
So that's where I was. Like, it makes sense to be Luke, but it would be easier to create another character and then like say
or bring in Sam Jackson. Or I really kind of thought that was like a high likelihood. I didn't think he'd come in on an X-Wing. So when I saw the X-Wing, I was like, oh, that's not him.
So I thought it could have been like something to do with a Ranger, because the Rangers used the X-Wings in the second episode. So like maybe they're coming in somehow. Like,
yeah. When I saw the first one, I was like, all right, how many more are we getting?
Right.
And then when it just stayed at one, it's like, okay, so this is a badass.
This is a single X-Wing. Like some dude who's okay with flying a single X-Wing in space.
Yeah.
And then this... you see this cloaked figure get on an elevator.
Dark cloak.
Yeah.
I'm still not willing to believe it's Luke.
So this this makes me go back to at the end of Rogue One, where Darth Vader.
Oh, no, you can't get there yet.
Okay.
Because to me, it was you see the X-wing.
Right.
It could be Luke. I'm not allowing myself to believe it yet. Cloaked figure gets out, dark cloak, black cloak. Could be Luke. They're not giving me Luke.
Right.
Finally, it's like the next couple of shots where the fucking he walks into screen.
Before that, they're all looking at the elevator.
Yeah. They're good. No. They're watching the screen. Motherfucker's got a lightsaber, but it's a black and white screen. We don't know yet what color lightsaber that is.
Exactly.
It could be Luke. They're not giving me Luke. I know it's not Luke. It's got to be somebody else. Until I know that it's Luke, it's not Luke.
Elevator door opens.
No, we're still not there. So then after that shot, and he's got his fucking green lightsaber with a black glove on.
Right.
They're giving me Luke. That's when I know it's Luke. When I fucking saw that green lightsaber with a black glove on, and he's just wrecking these dark troopers like crazy.
Doesn't even... yeah.
Just wrecking shop on these guys. Just destroying them.
And it's so funny because everybody in the background who's now, the Mandalorian and Moff Gideon and everybody else, they're all looking at that scene, and they're all like, oh shit,
he's coming for us.
Like we're all done here.
Yeah.
And it's incredibly reminiscent of the scene in Rogue One.
Where Darth Vader when you get the elevator.
Right. Darth Vader steps on and he's just going for it and
ignites that lightsaber.
Yeah.
Let's dance.
It's so good.
Yeah. What a great like echo of like connecting those two, like father and son of like. Yeah, no, we both got it.
Yep.
And like one of us chose this way.
Exactly.
One of us chose this way, but like we still do the same shit.
Yeah, we're just two sides of the same coin. 100% so. It was kind of emotional. I'm like, oh my God.
It really was.
It's Luke. And
like
he's back. And like not old man Luke that we get in the sequels.
Yeah.
It's Luke.
It's what we wanted.
Right.
And
it's not whiny Luke.
We weren't given.
It's not.
And like, to some point I was on board with, but like it was the fact of like, no, this is the Luke Skywalker that we've always wanted to see.
Yeah.
And like, as soon as it was over, I looked over at my daughter and I was like, that's the best Luke Skywalker we've ever had.
100% so. Now, here's where I think they failed. I'm not a big fan of the aging kind of thing.
The deep fake
kind of stuff, because like what this tells me, how they did that, this tells me that they're not going to explore a Luke Skywalker story at all. And they almost can't. Like you could have you seen
they have to an extent.
But have you seen the comparison between Sebastian Stan and Mark Hamill? Like they're pretty damn close.
Yeah, I totally thought that's where they were going to go with it.
Yeah, and that's what I thought too. Like bringing Sebastian Stan.
You've already got him on campus or whatever.
He's there. He's hanging out somewhere playing video games, and bring him over. I thought they might go that way so that they could continue to bring that character in and it wouldn't feel forced. Mm-hmm. But I don't like the CGI aging effect. I don't like that because I don't think it's going to age well. I mean, I think much like the prequels haven't aged well because of their heavy use of CGI. I don't think that's going to age well at all.
Here's why I don't think it matters. Like, all right, so earlier in the season, did you hear the thing about Blue Jeans guy?
Oh, the guy in the background?
Standing in the background, accidentally didn't get out of scene, but they captured him.
Yeah.
You know they've digitally edited him out now?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, so they could just go back in and
redo
it.
I think this has caused enough of a kind of cringe for most people that I bet they go in and they fix Luke.
As it ages, they can go back in and change it.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if they do it within the next couple of weeks, months or so.
I mean, it's
go in and tighten it up, make it better.
It's not as bad to me as Leia in Rogue One. Leia to me in Rogue One.
I agree.
And what's his
Tarkin.
name? Thank you. Even when I saw it, I was like, oh.
Well, what's amazing to me is like the technology is out there and it already exists. Like if you can go watch those scenes with people who have done a better deep fake on it, that looks spotless.
Right.
I don't understand why they don't use whatever that is.
Yeah. How they got around
They've already fixed Luke.
Yeah.
You can go and watch it right now. Like it looks perfect. They have them side by side. Like how did somebody do it in a couple of days? Y'all couldn't do it.
Yeah. What I think that they tried to do to get around it is they made that Luke basically expressionless. Mm-hmm. It's just maybe it's because of the uncanny valley of it. It just irks
the uncanny valley. Like I'm not gonna like I can't argue that. Like it did pull me out of the moment, and it did, make me notice it. Whereas like I wish they had gotten it tighter, and it wasn't so. But at the same time, like because of the 5 minutes prior to it, I'll forgive you for anything.
Sure. And the last thing I want to mention is the helmet touch, the Grogu helmet touch.
Yeah.
Right before the Mandalorian takes off his helmet. That's such good characterization between the two of them, that like the relationship, that it's not just you're carrying this, small green puppet around. Like this thing actually cares about you.
Yeah.
And wants to see you, not the helmet.
And I can't argue like it had to happen at that moment, but it almost made me wish like that it had happened before Luke got there.
Right.
Because like that beautiful moment was almost, kind of overshadowed by fucking Luke and R2 fucking D2. We didn't talk about it.
Sure.
His de-aging was perfect.
Nailed it. Spot on.
They didn't, that it almost kind of overshadowed that moment a bit.
I feel like
to me, like that's probably the most emotional moment so far in the series.
For sure. But I feel like you're already at that emotional high. You're already riled up. So like it makes sense to do it there. And like what other choice?
They had to do it there.
They had to.
It was just, you're already dealing with the fact that you saw Luke.
Yeah.
And then that Luke looked a
little
wonky.
He's asking for permission to go.
Don't look at me. With that creepy face.
Is your mouth actually moving? I can't really tell.
Just go back to your ship. I'll send him to
you. Pat him on the button.
I'll send him with R2.
All right. You ready to move on?
Sure.
All right. So before we talk about where they're going with the Star Wars universe, we got another scotch.
Holy shit.
I know. 2 in one episode. This is a rarity, but it is the new year, so why not? So this is the Ardbeg Wee Beastie. So this is a variation on the 10-year that we just did. It should be the exact same whiskey, except this is aged only 5 years.
All right. So do we have any discernible differences?
Right.
Other than the age statement.
Proof? 47.4.
So a little
bit higher. Just a little bit.
Little punch in the proof.
So 47.4 ABV. Let's call it 95 proof. So it's a little bit higher.
Interesting. Got fresh glasses?
Yeah, why not?
Okay.
You good with that?
Yep.
So in terms of that, that's really should be the only discernible difference is that it's a little bit higher proof, slightly, and it's 5 years younger.
Okay. Yes, sir.
There we go. There you are. All right.
Now, I'm going to go ahead and say it. This looks darker.
I was literally going
I
to
don't know
say the
if
same
it's
thing.
like if
Maybe it's the
some
light.
clouds just went by and the room's a little darker, but this appears to be a little darker to me.
Yeah, it definitely is darker. I wonder, maybe the slight difference in proof makes it lighter?
That doesn't make sense.
No. You are adding more water to the 10-year
Yeah, but
to drop
you're
it.
also adding 5 years.
That's also true. I don't know.
I can't imagine like the amount of water that you're adding to drop it 3 proof points.
I can tell you on the nose, not as much peat.
Not as much peat, way more honey.
And you get proof on the nose on this one. On the 10, you only get really a lot of peat. That's
agree.
really what you get. So it's not a peat punch.
Proof more, but I don't get a lot of proof.
You know
I get like butter.
Yeah, butter,
Melted butter.
and there's campfire. Not peat, but like I'm getting some campfire in there. You know what I mean? Like there's a little bit of a difference. Like
Get that fresh leather.
yeah, it's like it's not mellowed enough yet. It's still kind of charcoal. But this is a non-charcoal filter, so it's not filtered at all. All right,
I like the nose.
I did too. Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh. Definitely not as peaty. Like even on the palate. Like way
But it's not there.
Right. It's way subdued though.
Yeah.
It's like
But there's a really interesting bitter.
Bitter
Like woody, oaky bitter.
and I'm getting the spice that I got, I'm getting a lot of the spicy here, which now I'm going to say is not proof related. Like yes, it is a little bit higher proof. I get that. But I'm going to say it has something to do with aging and malt because now it's like peppery.
Yeah,
like black
cracked.
pepper. Yeah.
Yeah.
But like butterscotch. Like
yeah.
way
Yeah,
butterscotch.
big bump up in the sweet scotchy note.
I am, however, not getting a whole lot of the salt brine that I got on the 10-year.
Yeah, no, it's taking that kind of salty note back, and it's just like a sweet pepper.
Yeah, it's like really subduing that salty note, subduing the peat, but pushing that sweet, peppery balance that I enjoyed in the 10-year. I might enjoy this a little bit more.
It's
For a different reason, though.
right up there. I mean, I wish it had more smoke in it. I miss that, but it's so interesting. It's like if you've had like a sweet salsa, but it's really sweet forward, and then that pepper spicy note comes in
and
kind of
holds
lights
it.
you up.
Yeah. So here's what the bottle words say, if I may, real quick. Plenty of things in the world that cannot be fully explained. One such peculiarity has emerged from the peat bogs of Isla. Said to be a feisty young creature, witnesses have spoken of its formidable bite. Senses are heightened with each encounter. First comes an intense aroma of cracked black pepper, mingling with sappy pine resin. I don't know if I get pine.
No,
And the sharp tang of smoke. Again, maybe
I wish it had more.
Maybe it's because we've put it against the 10-year. Suddenly, the explosive mouthfeel burst forth with chocolate, creosote, and tar. Savory meats sink into the palate before the long, salty mouth-coating finish slinks away. At just 5 years old, the legendary smokiness of Ardbeg is untamed by age, revealing the inner beast of the Isla icon. I would say that's not true. That you get far more peat in the 10-year than you do in this.
For sure. Like,
But let me ask you this.
not even close.
Is it because we had the peat of that?
I don't think so. It's what you prefer. I think they're both fantastic. It's whether you kind of appreciate the peat more,
Right.
or if you appreciate the honey more.
Yeah.
To me, is like about it.
You're right. Like, I think I like this more, not because I don't like the peat, but I like that peppery note. And I don't like spicy drinks at all. Like, anyone who knows me, you can attest to this. Like, I do not like spicy drinks. But that peppery note, that's interesting
It
here.
really is. And
Like,
it's
Pronounced.
pepper.
Yeah.
Like,
It's
the
pronounced.
aftertaste is just like it. Yeah. Pepper.
My wife got this for Christmas, and this bottle might go quick.
It's fun.
Yeah.
It's a good one.
It's kind of a hard bottle to find around here, and unfortunately, it's going to go quick. Anything else on this?
It's lovely.
It is. If given a choice, which one would you rather? I know that we said that they're on par with each other. Which one would you rather?
Personally, I would rather the original because I like the smoke.
Yeah. Okay. I think I'd rather the Wee Beastie.
I'd take a bottle of
I'd
both.
take a bottle of both too. All right. So let's real quick run down, just because we don't have a whole lot of information. But I want to talk about the information that just came out a couple weeks ago about the Disney Plus series that are about to come out.
Sure.
And there are 10, as of right now, on New Year's Day for us, a little bit later for you guys, there are 10 series that have been announced.
Right.
Okay. That's Andor, which is a prequel to Rogue One. So like in the New Hope era.
Yeah.
And I think they're...
Cassian Andor.
Yeah. They're basically
story.
Diego Luna is reprised, which I love that character. Like I'm glad they're reprising him.
My theory on that is that it's not so much because of him, it's because of his droid.
Okay, I can see that.
I forget the droid, but that droid is hilarious.
Yeah,
and I think they just want more of him.
True. Man, I forget the name of the droid.
I think it'll be like a solo Chewbacca situation.
Sure.
That droid was so hilarious that I think
super funny. Yeah.
His dry wit. I think they want more of him.
They want more of that
because I know I did.
Yeah,
I was so bummed out when he died. Like, I loved that character.
But I loved how they killed those. That was the first time they've really killed like that.
I can put in Rogue One.
Yeah, it's a great movie
and watch that movie.
Real quick though, before we go through the rest of these and what we feel about them, what I find super interesting is they're going to be dealing with multiple timelines. Like they're not doing this a linear timeline or like we're choosing this and this is what we're doing. They're literally going like several hundred years before the Phantom Menace, all the way to after.
Which one is that?
The Acolyte.
Oh wow!
The Acolyte occurs several hundred years before the Phantom Menace, like in the High Republic or the
High Republic.
Yeah, the High Republic. That's what they're called. That's the era they're calling it, the High Republic.
Damn.
So this would be like when Yoda's a kid, kind of thing. Like somewhere
when he's baby Yoda.
Somewhere in that timeline, because Yoda is 900 years old in Return of the Jedi. Nope, Empire Strikes Back. So, several hundred years. He might be a teenager. I don't know. I don't know how.
He'll still be master. Like he'll that's like his golden age of whipping ass.
So if you got spry Yoda in Clone Wars, can you imagine like actual spry Yoda at 400 years old?
Damn.
Okay, Obi-Wan Kenobi, which I'm really excited for, except for Hayden Christensen.
I love that.
You love Hayden Christensen?
I love that he's coming back and going to get an opportunity because I don't think Hayden Christensen is a bad actor.
I disagree with you.
I think he was just poorly directed.
I also don't disagree with you there.
So I'm all for it. And I think
here's where
given the opportunity with the right director, the right set of circumstances, you're bringing back Ewan McGregor so these guys know each other.
Right.
I think
Ewan McGregor's a fantastic
I think it can
actor.
work, man.
I don't
give that
disagree
poor
with you.
guy an opportunity to actually
That's what I'm interested in. Like,
do it.
Can he actually live up to it? I'm interested. And
I think he's got the chops to do it.
I like Ewan McGregor. I'll say that. And I like Ewan McGregor.
I think it's dope. I'm hyped that he's willing to come back to do it.
100%. So that's supposed to take place 10 years after Revenge of the Sith. So before New Hope and after Revenge of the Sith. That's when that's supposed to happen. So in that timeline. Then you have Ahsoka. Ahsoka is supposed to happen after Return of the Jedi, so within the Mandalorian timeline,
right,
or somewhere adjacent.
I think that's going to be her going off to find Thrawn,
right? Somewhere adjacent to that.
Maybe Ezra Bridger, but man, I'm not big on that.
No
ball game. A lot of people are though.
Well,
but I kind of like. Ugh.
It's going to be interesting to see what they do with that character and like how they develop that character.
The dude that I saw that they're like possibly prepping to be Ezra is the kid that was Aladdin.
Oh, okay.
Which I liked him a lot.
Yeah, I did too.
So
that might
if
work.
That's the case, I might be on board.
Yeah.
But just the character as a whole, I never really liked Ezra.
Rangers of the New Republic, which we don't know a whole lot about. The Bad Batch, which is supposed to be it's animated and it's after the Clone Wars. So they're
that's that last episode, that last season of Rebels that they redid. They introduced the Bad Batch.
They're like the heightened kind of clones of like the badass of the badass kind of thing.
They're not heightened. They're clones that didn't come out quite right.
Gotcha. Okay.
And that provides them with unique abilities.
The Acolyte, which happens several hundred years before the Phantom Menace. So now you're kind of like...
That's very interesting.
That's super... So now you're really dealing with three different perspectives. Lando, which not much is known about Lando. Obviously, it has to happen somewhere between Solo and when Lando makes an appearance. It could happen afterwards.
I mean, that's another thing, though. Like, he's popped up in Rebels.
Yeah.
He's popped up in a couple of different things. So it's just another one of those things of like, man,
what are you gonna do?
You really got to know all this stuff to be like, he's got to start here and end here.
Yeah.
Within that timeline, you can do whatever you want to do with him.
Last thing I read, Donald Glover had not signed on, but I don't feel like
I thought I heard that he had.
Maybe. I mean, that's the last thing I read, and it could have changed. I mean, that crap changes all the time. Mm-hmm. I'm really hoping that's the case because I like Donald Glover, and I think he would.
I don't think they'd do it without him.
I don't think they could do it without him. How are you going to recast the whole character? Like, no. Visions, which is going to be like animated shorts. And I don't think much hasn't been released about like when those take place, or maybe they're just, connecting things together. A droid story, which is going to be animated, focusing on R2-D2 and C-3PO. But then the big one, to me anyway, is Book of Boba Fett, which is going to happen, right, the post credits for this season of Mandalorian, which is basically like, I'm the Hutt now. Like, yeah. He kills Fortuna. I forget his first name, whatever his first name. Bib, there it is. He kills Fortuna, takes over, and I can't wait. Because I want to see more out of that
I think for me, I'm so stoked for Obi-Wan.
Right.
Nothing can really overshadow that. After that, it's probably Ahsoka.
Yeah.
Because I thought they did such a good job with her. Like, that character, to see the arc of Ahsoka is incredible.
And what's cool is in terms of all of these timelines, you don't really know what happens to her between Rebels and basically now. Like, there's not a whole lot in terms of my understanding. Like, and maybe they touch on that in books and maybe some of the comic books, but like in terms of, big canon, she's not talked about at all.
Well, and there's a scene at the end, like the last episode of Rebels, where Ahsoka shows up to Sabine Wren, and there's apparently Dave Filoni's come out recently and said that like that scene doesn't necessarily happen, or that shot doesn't necessarily happen at the end of this episode. Timeline wise, that scene could actually take place after The Mandalorian.
Interesting.
So there's like, that's another thing they can kind of
play with,
reshuffle stuff. Sure.
Yeah. You got anything else?
No. Scotch. That's one thing I will add is it gives me a little trepidation.
Yeah.
Like Marvel announcing a shit ton of stuff, I have no reservations for because you haven't failed me.
Right.
Even your bad stuff, I still enjoy.
Right.
I still get a kick out of it, and I still like how I love how Thor: The Dark World was so integral to Endgame.
Yeah, for sure. I think
you haven't failed me.
I think though
Star Wars, you failed me a lot recently.
Yeah, but
and
I think
jumping in with both feet because you've had a little success with this one TV show and this one group of creatives. Can y'all spread that love around?
Here's okay. Yes, I agree. What I'm worried about is now you have so many directors, which could work out really well. It has worked out well for the MCU, but you have so many directors doing so many different things that it could very easily, if you don't have a creative mind behind this,
right,
like
that they've never showed us that they have,
right.
If it's Kathleen Kennedy, I don't trust it.
I don't either. But what they've kind of set this up is Filoni and Favreau kind of being the creative minds behind a lot of what's going on.
And they're bringing back George Lucas.
And they're bringing
to
Lucas
be involved.
Back.
But that's what kind of drives me nuts is like I see a lot of like stuff of, the sequel trilogy was garbage. Everything was fine before that.
No
way.
No.
Like, do y'all not remember the prequels? Like, people were, pissed off about the prequels.
Yeah.
Jar Jar Binks, man.
Which I maintain is not as terrible as a character
I don't
as people
disagree.
make him out to be.
I don't disagree, but like, man.
But he definitely is a punching bag for sure.
He's a punching bag, but like there's a lot wrong with
I don't disagree with that either. There's a lot wrong.
Sand.
Hayden Christensen.
It's hard and coarse and it gets everywhere. Nobody enjoyed that. So I have a lot of like, y'all are going too far too fast.
I'm on board.
I'm going to watch every bit of it. They got me, so that doesn't matter. I'm just saying, like,
You're worried.
I'm not at all expecting it all to be great.
Okay. Well, we want to know what your thoughts are on the second season of The Mandalorian. Which was your favorite episode? What did you like about it? What did you not like about it? And we also want to know, what are your thoughts on where they're kind of going with the Star Wars universe as it's now becoming more MCU'd, if you will.
SWCU. That's not really cinematic, although it always looks cinematic.
Sure. So, what are your thoughts on that? What are you excited for? What are you most trepidatious about? How's that for a word to end the podcast? Trepidatious.
I'm way on
Did
that
you already say
trepidatious
that?
side. No,
Yeah.
I said something else.
Okay. Well, you can get in touch with us through email. It's drepandstone@gmail.com. You can also get in touch with us through social media.
Yeah, it's always one word, Drep and Stone. DREP and Stone. You find us, you like us, we like you right back. Share something.
Yeah. Anything.
Like a post and share it.
Whatever
Helps
it
a
is
lot.
you want. It definitely does. And if you'd also like to support the podcast, you can buy us a pint on our Buy Me a Coffee page. That's buymeacoffee.com/drepandstone. The link is in the show notes. Just click on that and it'll take you right where you need to be.
Easy peasy.
Yeah, be like Brandon and buy us a pint. It helps support the show, helps us make great content for you guys.
We enjoy doing it. It just helps us move this thing along. Buy
Yeah.
us a dram.
Hey, Kyle, may your glass overflow.
And your ass never show. Cheers, buddy.
Cheers.
Speak bottle to me.
Yeah, that's my favorite language. Like, I want the scotch.
Structure.
Structure.
That was like a whistle there.
If you look at Pedro's Pascal, if you look at Pedro Pascal's,
Past. Pedro Pascal's past.
yeah, there it is. Thanks. That was really loud.
Ardbeg my pants. When are we going to get to it? Don't look at me. That creepy face. Save Grogu. You can chop a lot.
Yeah.
If you got them, smoke them.
That's what I always say.
Ooh.
All right, so
4 hours later.
basically I want hot rum in a glass is what I'm trying to tell you.
Keep that Kerrygold. That's going to be badass.
Yeah.
You come find us, we'll like you right. Or no, you find us, we'll and like us.
Try that again.
It's always one word.
Nope.
It's always one word. I can't stop smiling.